Princess Zara stepped off the transport ship and looked around the human space station called New Horizon. The metal walls were painted in soft colors, nothing like the dark stone of her home planet. Small lights created a warm feeling that seemed strange to her. On Vethia, everything was built to show power and strength. This place felt different. She wore her royal robes made of silver fabric that showed her blue-scaled skin underneath. Her tall frame moved with grace as she walked through the corridors. Other aliens stared at her as she passed. Some whispered behind their hands. She kept her head high and pretended not to notice. The Galactic Peace Accords happened every year. Leaders from different planets came together to discuss trade and peace treaties. This year the humans were hosting the event. Princess Zara had never been to a human station before. Everything seemed smaller and softer than what she was used to. Ambassador Jake Martinez waited for her at the main entrance to the conference hall. He was a middle-aged human with kind brown eyes and graying hair. When he smiled, his whole face changed. Zara had never seen a smile like that before. On her planet, showing teeth meant you were ready to fight. "Welcome to New Horizon, Princess Zara," Jake said with a small bow. "We are honored to have you here." "Thank you, Ambassador," she replied. Her voice was formal and careful. She had studied human languages for months to prepare for this meeting. Jake led her through the station toward the banquet hall. They passed large windows that showed the stars outside. Humans walked by in small groups, talking and laughing together. Some held hands or touched each other on the shoulder. Zara found this behavior puzzling. On Vethia, touching was only for fighting or mating. There was no other reason for it. The banquet hall was filled with delegates from 20 different worlds. The Krillians sat at one table, their red skin gleaming under the lights. The Barathi delegation took up 3 tables with their large, bear-like bodies. The Zentorans floated near the ceiling in their special gravity suits. Dr. Emma Collins approached them as they entered. She was a small human woman with short blonde hair and bright blue eyes. She wore simple clothes but carried herself with confidence. "Princess Zara, I'm Dr. Collins, the xenocultural specialist here on the station. I study how different species interact with each other." "A pleasure to meet you, Dr. Collins," Zara said. She noticed that Emma's handshake was gentle but firm, not like the crushing grips that Vethians use to show dominance. The 3 of them found seats at the main table. Servers brought food from different worlds. The humans had made sure that every species could eat something familiar. Zara picked at her plate, watching the other delegates more than eating. As the evening went on, delegates from other species began to approach her table. First came Commander Vex from the Krillian Empire. His red eyes gleamed as he looked her up and down. "Princess Zara," he said with a voice like grinding stone, "I hear you have turned down every mating proposal from your own species. Are you waiting for something better?" The table grew quiet. Other delegates turned to listen. Zara felt her scales flush darker blue, which happened when she was embarrassed or angry. "I have chosen to focus on my duties to my people," she said carefully. Commander Vex laughed, a harsh sound that made several humans flinch. "Duties? A female's duty is to choose a strong mate and produce offspring. You are already past your prime mating age. What male will want you now?" Jake started to speak, but Zara held up her hand. She could handle this herself. "My worth is not measured by my mating choices, Commander," she said. "Then how is it measured?" asked Ambassador Thek from the Barathi delegation. His massive form leaned forward. "On our world, females who refuse to mate are considered broken." "Are you broken, Princess?" More delegates joined the conversation. Soon half the room was discussing Zara's personal life as if she wasn't there. They spoke about her like she was a puzzle to be solved or a machine that wasn't working properly. Emma watched the princess carefully. She saw how Zara's shoulders tensed and how her hands gripped her eating utensils tighter. But the princess never lost her composure. She answered every rude question with calm dignity. "Perhaps she is afraid," suggested Lady Korath from the Zentoran delegation. "Fear can make females avoid their natural duties." "Or perhaps," said Commander Vex, standing up so his voice carried across the room, "she simply doesn't know what she's missing. Some species are too primitive to understand adult pleasures." The room erupted in laughter from several delegations. Jake's face turned red with anger. Emma put her hand on his arm to keep him from standing up. Princess Zara looked around the room at all the faces staring at her. For a moment something sad flickered in her golden eyes. Then she straightened her spine and spoke clearly. "You may be right, Commander Vex," she said. Her voice was steady and strong. "Perhaps I don't know what I'm missing." She turned to look at Jake and Emma. "Your species seems to have something that mine does not understand. Something that makes you different from all the others here." The room grew quiet again. Everyone leaned forward to hear what she would say next. "Would you show me?" she asked the two humans. "Would you show me what I'm missing?" Jake and Emma exchanged glances. There was something in the princess's voice that wasn't just curiosity. It was hope, and longing, and a deep sadness that she had been carrying for a very long time. "Yes," Emma said softly. "We would be honored to show you." Commander Vex sat down with a grunt of disappointment. The other delegates began talking among themselves again. But Jake and Emma continued to watch Princess Zara. They had heard something in her question that the others had missed. She wasn't asking about physical things. She was asking about something much deeper, something that her species had never taught her existed. The next morning, Emma Collins met Princess Zara outside her guest quarters. The princess wore simpler clothes today, a long blue dress that matched her scales. She looked tired, as if she had not slept well. "Good morning, Princess," Emma said with a warm smile. "Are you ready for a tour of our station?" "Please call me Zara," the princess said. "And yes, I am ready to learn." Jake Martinez joined them at the main elevator. He carried a tablet with notes about the station's layout. "We thought we would start with the civilian areas," he said. "The places where people live and work when they're not on duty." They took the elevator to level 7, where many of the station's families lived. As soon as the doors opened, Zara could hear children laughing somewhere down the hall. The sound made her pause. "Children live here?" she asked. "On a military station?" "New Horizon isn't just military," Emma explained as they walked. "It's a community. People bring their families here. Children grow up here. Some people are born here and never live anywhere else." They turned a corner and entered a large open area, called the Community Gardens. Soft light came from panels in the ceiling that copied sunlight from Earth. Plants grew in neat rows and wild patches. Trees provided shade over walking paths and sitting areas. Zara stopped walking when she saw a young couple sitting on a bench under a flowering tree. The man had his arm around the woman's shoulders. She was reading a book out loud while he listened with his eyes closed. Neither of them was talking about duties or politics or trade agreements. They were just being together. "What are they doing?" Zara asked quietly. "Just spending time together," Jake said. "That's Tom and Linda. They've been married for 3 years. They come here every morning before work." "Married," Zara repeated the word carefully. "This means they have chosen each other for mating?" "It's more than that," Emma said. "Marriage means they've promised to take care of each other, to share their lives, to be partners in everything." Zara watched as Linda reached up and touched Tom's face gently. He opened his eyes and smiled at her. They looked at each other like they were the only two people in the universe. On Vethia, when a male and female mate, it is to produce strong offspring, Zara said. The strongest male fights for the right to mate with the strongest female. There is no choice, no gentleness. They continued walking through the gardens. An elderly couple sat feeding breadcrumbs to small birds. The man's hands shook with age, but the woman helped him hold the bread. They didn't speak much, but they moved together like they had been practicing the same dance for decades. "How long do human matings last?" Zara asked. "Marriages can last a lifetime," Emma said. "Some couples are together for 50 or 60 years, until one of them dies." Zara stared at the elderly couple. 60 years? With the same person? "When you love someone, you want to be with them," Jake explained. "Not just for mating. For everything. You want to share your joys and sorrows. You want to make them happy. You want to grow old together. Love." Zara said the word like she was tasting something new. "This is different from mating?" They found an empty bench and sat down. Emma thought carefully about how to explain something that humans took for granted. "Love is caring about someone else's happiness more than your own," she said. "It's wanting to protect them and comfort them. It's choosing to be with them even when it's difficult." Captain Ryan Foster appeared on the path ahead of them. He was a tall man with silver hair and laugh lines around his eyes. When he saw them, he walked over with a smile. "Mind if I join you?" he asked. "I heard you were giving the princess a tour of our community life." Jake made room on the bench. "Ryan, meet Princess Zara." "Princess, this is Captain Foster. He runs the civilian operations on this station." Ryan sat down and looked at the gardens around them. This was my wife's favorite place, he said quietly. She died 2 years ago, but I still come here every day. It makes me feel close to her. Zara turned to look at him with interest. Your wife is dead, but you still think of her? Every day, Ryan said with a sad smile. We were married for 38 years. She was my best friend, my partner, the person I trusted most in the universe. When you love someone like that, they never really leave you. But you could choose a new mate now, Zara said, someone younger and stronger. Ryan laughed, but it wasn't a mocking sound. I don't want a new mate. I want my Sarah. No one could ever replace her. Zara was quiet for a long time. She watched the people around them in the garden. A little girl ran up to show her father a flower she had picked. He lifted her up and spun her around while she giggled. A teenage boy helped his grandmother water her plants, even though he looked like he would rather be somewhere else. Your species touches each other so much, she said finally, but not for fighting. Touch can mean many things, Emma said. We touch to comfort each other, to show affection, to say hello or goodbye. Touch can heal and comfort. As if to prove her point, a small child tripped and scraped his knee on the path nearby. His mother rushed over and gathered him into her arms. She didn't check to see if he was seriously injured first. She just held him while he cried, stroking his hair and making soft sounds. She's making herself vulnerable, Zara observed. If there was real danger, she would be hurt too. That's what love does, Ryan said. It makes you want to protect the people you care about, even if it puts you at risk. The mother helped her son up and wiped his tears. She kissed his forehead and sent him off to play again. The whole thing took less than 5 minutes, but Zara watched it like she was seeing magic. On my world, injured children are left to heal themselves, she said. It makes them stronger. Maybe, Jake said. But it also makes them lonelier. They walked to another part of the station where people worked. In the engineering section, they watched a team of humans fixing a broken machine. Instead of competing to show who was strongest or smartest, they worked together. When one person didn't know how to do something, another person taught them. When someone made a mistake, the others helped fix it without anger. Where is your hierarchy? Zara asked. Who is the leader? Chief Barnes is in charge. Emma pointed to a woman with gray hair who was explaining something to a younger engineer. But everyone contributes. Everyone's ideas matter. In the medical bay, they watched Dr. Amy Blake treating patients. She talked to each person gently, even when they were afraid or in pain. She held an old man's hand while she gave him medicine. She sang a soft song to a crying baby. Your healers touch their patients, Zara noted. Vithian healers only touch to perform procedures. Healing isn't just about fixing the body, Amy explained when Emma introduced them. Sometimes people need emotional healing too. Sometimes they just need to know that someone cares about them. As the day went on, Zara saw hundreds of small acts of kindness. People helping each other carry heavy things. Someone sharing their lunch with a friend who had forgotten theirs. A man stopping to tie his wife's shoes when she couldn't bend down. You do all of this even when no one is watching, Zara said as they ended their tour, even when there is no reward. The reward is making someone else happy, Emma said. The reward is being part of a community where people care about each other. That evening, Zara sat alone in her quarters, looking out at the stars. For the first time in her life, she wondered what it would feel like to have someone care about her happiness more than their own. 3 days later, Princess Zara found Emma in the station's small library. The human woman was reading reports about different alien cultures. When she saw Zara, she smiled and closed her tablet. How are you feeling about everything you've seen? Emma asked. Zara sat down in the chair across from her. Confused, she said honestly. Yesterday I watched a human male give up his lunch so that a female could eat. She was not his mate. She was not carrying his offspring. There was no benefit to him. Maybe the benefit was knowing that she wouldn't be hungry, Emma suggested. That makes no sense, Zara said, but her voice was thoughtful rather than dismissive. Yet I cannot stop thinking about it. Emma leaned forward. What else are you thinking about? You mentioned bonding rituals yesterday. The ceremony where humans promise to care for each other. May I observe one of these? Emma's face lit up. Actually, there's a wedding this afternoon. Lieutenant Beth Warren is marrying engineer Alex Murphy. I'm sure they wouldn't mind if you attended. That afternoon, the station's main auditorium was decorated with flowers from the community gardens. Chairs were arranged in neat rows facing a small platform. Soft music played from hidden speakers. People filled the seats, talking quietly and smiling. Zara wore her finest blue dress and sat in the back row with Emma and Jake. She had never seen so many humans gathered together without any weapons or displays of power. Everyone looked happy and peaceful. "Why are there so many people here?" Zara asked. "Beth and Alex have lived on this station for 5 years," Jake explained. "These people are their friends and colleagues. They want to witness this important moment." Captain Foster stood on the platform wearing a formal uniform. He had a book in his hands and a gentle smile on his face. Music began to play and everyone stood up. A young woman in a white dress walked down the center aisle. Her face was glowing with happiness. People turned to watch her pass, and many of them had tears in their eyes. But these were not tears of sadness. Zara could tell the difference. "That is Beth," Emma whispered. "The bride." Behind Beth came Alex wearing a dark blue uniform. He walked with his father, an older man who looked proud and emotional. When Alex saw Beth waiting for him, his whole face changed. The love in his expression was so clear that even Zara could see it. "Do they look at each other like that every day?" Zara asked quietly. "When you're in love, yes," Emma replied. Captain Foster began to speak. "We are gathered here today to witness Alex and Beth as they promise to share their lives with each other. Marriage is not just about two people. It's about two people choosing to become a family." Zara listened carefully as Alex and Beth spoke their promises to each other. They talked about staying together through good times and bad times. They promised to help each other grow and change. They promised to put each other's needs before their own. "I promise to love you when you're happy and when you're sad," Beth said to Alex. "I promise to take care of you when you're sick. I promise to celebrate your successes and help you through your failures." Alex's voice was thick with emotion when he spoke. "I promise to be your partner in everything. I promise to listen to you and support your dreams. I promise to choose you every day for the rest of my life." When they exchanged rings, Zara was surprised to feel water in her own eyes. Vethians could cry, but they rarely did. "It was considered a sign of weakness. Why am I leaking?" she whispered to Emma. "Those are tears of joy," Emma said, wiping her own eyes. "It means you're moved by what you're seeing." After the ceremony, there was a celebration with food and dancing. Zara watched as Alex and Beth moved together to slow music. They held each other close and swayed gently, looking into each other's eyes like they were sharing secrets. "They look so vulnerable," Zara observed. "They have given each other the power to hurt them deeply." "That's what trust is," Jake said. "Knowing someone could hurt you but believing they won't." Later that evening, Emma invited Zara to something called movie night in the recreation center. About 30 people gathered in a room with a large screen. They brought pillows and blankets and snacks to share. "What is this ritual?" Zara asked as they found seats on a comfortable couch. "It's not a ritual," Emma laughed. "It's just entertainment. We watch stories together and have fun." The movie was called The Princess Bride. Zara was immediately interested because it was about a princess, though this princess looked nothing like her. As the story unfolded, Zara found herself asking questions. Why doesn't the princess choose the strongest warrior? She asked when the character Buttercup fell in love with a farm boy. "Because she loves him," said Amy, who was sitting nearby. "Love isn't about strength or status. It's about connection." Zara watched as the farm boy, Wesley, fought impossible odds to save Buttercup. He didn't fight for honor or glory. He fought because he couldn't bear the thought of losing her. "He risks everything for one female," Zara said. "This is illogical." "Logic has nothing to do with love," said Sam, an engineer who was sitting on the floor. "When you love someone, you do anything to protect them." When the movie showed Wesley saying "as you wish" to every request Buttercup made, several people in the room sighed happily. "He means I love you," Emma explained to Zara. "It's his way of telling her without saying the words." "Why not just say the words?" "Sometimes showing love is more powerful than saying it," Jake said. As the movie continued, Zara watched the humans around her react to the story. They gasped when characters were in danger. They laughed at the funny parts. They cheered when the heroes won. They were experiencing the emotions of people who didn't even exist. "You care about these imaginary people," Zara said with wonder. "Good stories help us understand real emotions," Emma said. "They help us practice feeling things in a safe way." When the movie ended and Wesley and Buttercup were reunited, many people in the room were crying happy tears. Zara touched her own face and found it wet again. As people began to leave, Zara stayed on the couch, thinking. Jake sat down beside her. "What did you think of your first movie?" he asked. "I have a question," Zara said slowly. "How do you know when you love someone? How do you recognize this feeling?" Jake was quiet for a moment. "When their happiness becomes more important than your own," he said finally. "When you would rather suffer yourself than see them suffer. When you can't imagine your life without them in it." Zara nodded slowly. "And this feeling, it is not about mating or offspring? It can include those things," Jake said. "But it's much bigger than that. Love is about souls connecting. It's about two people choosing to share everything, their fears, their dreams, their daily joys and sorrows." "Souls," Zara repeated. "What is a soul?" "The part of you that makes you who you are. Your thoughts, your feelings, your memories, your hopes, the deepest part of yourself." Zara looked around the now empty room. "Humans share their souls with each other? When we love someone, yes. We trust them with the most vulnerable parts of ourselves." For the first time, Zara began to understand why the other alien delegates had been wrong about her. She wasn't missing physical experiences. She was missing something much more profound. She was missing the chance to connect her soul with another soul. "Jake," she said quietly, "I think I understand now why humans are different from all the other species." "Why is that?" "You have learned to be strong enough to be weak. You have learned that the greatest power comes from choosing to be vulnerable with someone else." Jake smiled. "I think you're beginning to understand love, Princess." That night, Zara lay in her bed thinking about Wesley and Buttercup, about Beth and Alex, about all the humans she had watched caring for each other. For the first time in her life, she wondered what it would feel like to have someone say "as you wish" to her, meaning "I love you." The attack came without warning during the final day of negotiations. Princess Zara was in the main conference room with delegates from 12 different worlds when the station's emergency alarms began to sound. Red lights flashed throughout the room as Captain Foster's voice came over the speakers. "All delegates to secure locations immediately. We have hostile ships approaching." Through the large windows, Zara could see dark ships with Krillian markings closing in on the station. Their weapons were already charging with deadly red light. "Pirates," growled Ambassador Thek from the Barathi delegation. "Krillian raiders who don't follow their government's peace treaties." The other delegates began pushing toward the exits. But Jake Martinez stood in the center of the room with his hands raised. "Please remain calm," he called out. "We have protocols for this situation. Security teams will escort you to safe areas." A massive explosion shook the station. The lights flickered and several delegates fell to the floor. Through the windows, Zara could see pieces of metal floating past. The attackers had hit something important. Human security officers rushed into the room, but instead of saving themselves, they immediately began helping the alien delegates. Zara watched in amazement as a small human woman helped the massive Barathi ambassador to his feet. The woman couldn't have weighed more than his arm, but she showed no fear. "This way, Ambassador Thek," the woman said calmly. "We have a secure area prepared for you." Another explosion, closer this time. The floor tilted and everyone grabbed onto tables and chairs to keep from falling. Emergency panels opened in the walls and oxygen masks dropped down. "The station is losing atmosphere," someone shouted. In the chaos, Zara saw Ambassador Vex from the Zentoran delegation collapse near the broken windows. His breathing apparatus had been damaged in the attack. Without it, the atmospheric pressure would kill him in minutes. The smart thing would be to leave him. He was from a species that had been enemies with humans just 5 years ago. Saving him would be dangerous and might delay getting the other delegates to safety. Jake Martinez didn't hesitate. He grabbed an emergency breathing kit from the wall and ran toward the injured Zentoran. The floor was covered with broken glass and twisted metal. The air was being sucked toward the damaged windows. "Jake, don't!" Emma shouted from the doorway. "It's too dangerous." But Jake was already kneeling beside Ambassador Vex, fitting the breathing mask over the alien's face. A piece of debris flew past his head, missing him by inches. The gravity in that part of the room was failing, making it hard to stay on the ground. Zara found herself moving without thinking. Her strong Vethian body could handle the dangerous conditions better than Jake's. She reached the injured ambassador, just as another explosion shook the station. "Help me carry him," Jake said, not questioning why she had come to help. Together, they lifted the unconscious Zentoran and carried him toward the exit. The floor lurched again and Jake fell, but he never let go of his end of the ambassador. They made it to the secure area just as emergency doors sealed the damaged section. "Why did you do that?" Zara asked Jake as medical personnel took care of Ambassador Vex. "Because he needed help," Jake said simply, wiping blood from a cut on his forehead. "But he is your enemy. His people have killed humans." "That doesn't matter right now," Jake said. "Right now he's just someone who needed help." The secure area was filling with delegates and station personnel. Human crew members were everywhere, but they weren't following normal military procedures. Instead of a rigid chain of command, they worked together like a family. When news came that Captain Foster had been seriously injured in the engineering section, Zara watched something remarkable happen. The entire command structure should have fallen apart. Without their leader, most military organizations would struggle to function, but the humans just worked harder. They didn't fight over who was in charge. They didn't panic or abandon their posts. Instead, they seemed to draw strength from their shared concern for their captain. "Foster's hurt bad," reported Chief Engineer Matt Chen over the communication system. "But he's still giving orders from the medical bay. Says to keep the life support running no matter what." "Of course he does," said Dr. Blake with a sad smile as she prepared medical supplies. "Ryan would rather die than let anyone else get hurt." Emma grabbed Zara's arm. "Come with me. We need help in the medical bay." They ran through corridors filled with smoke and emergency lighting. Crew members passed them carrying injured people and emergency supplies. No one was running away from the danger. Everyone was running toward where they were needed. In the medical bay, the scene was controlled chaos. Dr. Blake and her team worked on multiple patients at once. Captain Foster lay on the main table, unconscious but alive. His chest rose and fell with mechanical help from breathing equipment. "What can I do?" Zara asked. "Hold this," Dr. Blake said, putting a compress in Zara's hands. "Press firmly against the wound." Zara had never provided medical care before. On Vethia, only trained healers touched injured people. But she followed Dr. Blake's instructions, pressing the bandage against a young engineer's bleeding arm. "It hurts," the engineer said weakly. Without thinking, Zara touched his forehead gently. "You are safe now," she said. "The doctors will fix you." The simple touch seemed to calm him. His breathing became more regular and some of the fear left his eyes. Zara felt something warm spread through her chest. Was this what caring for someone felt like? Throughout the long hours of the attack, Zara worked alongside the medical team. She held hands with frightened patients. She brought water to people who were thirsty. She learned that healing was about more than fixing injuries. When a young woman cried because she was afraid her husband had been killed in the attack, Zara sat beside her and listened. She didn't know what to say, so she just stayed there while the woman talked about her fears. "Thank you," the woman said eventually. "I feel less alone now. Less alone." Zara had never thought about aloneness as something that could be fixed by another person's presence. As the hours passed, reports came in from around the station. The attackers had been driven off, but not by superior weapons or tactics. They had been defeated by the humans' refusal to give up on each other. When the engines were damaged, the engineering crew had worked in dangerous conditions to keep the station from falling into the nearby star. When life support failed in Section C, volunteers had shared their oxygen with strangers. When the main computer was hit, technicians had manually controlled every system to keep people alive. "Why do they fight so hard?" Zara asked Emma during a quiet moment. "This is just a job for most of them. They could escape and find work elsewhere." Emma looked around the medical bay at all the humans working to save lives. "This isn't just a job. This is their home. These are their people. When you love something, you protect it." Near dawn, Captain Foster woke up. The first thing he asked was whether everyone was safe. When Dr. Blake told him that they had lost only 2 people out of nearly 1,000 on the station, he closed his eyes with relief. "The delegates?" he asked weakly. "All safe," Jake reported. "Ambassador Vex wants to thank you personally when you're stronger." Zara watched this exchange with growing understanding. The captain had been willing to die to protect people from species that had been enemies. The crew had risked everything to save their leader. No one had asked what they would get in return. Later, as the medical bay finally grew quiet, Zara found herself sitting beside Captain Foster's bed. He was sleeping peacefully now, surrounded by flowers and get-well messages from crew members. "You stayed," Emma said, finding her there. "I wanted to understand something," Zara said. During the attack, I felt something I have never felt before. When that young engineer was hurt, I wanted to help him feel better. When the woman was crying, I wanted to comfort her. Is this what you call caring? Yes, Emma said with a smile. That's exactly what caring feels like. It makes you vulnerable, Zara said. When you care about others, their pain becomes your pain. That's true. But their joy also becomes your joy. Their strength becomes your strength. Zara looked around the medical bay at all the sleeping patients. Humans continued to check on them through the night, making sure they were comfortable and not afraid. I understand now, she said quietly. I have been looking for strength in the wrong place. I thought strength meant being able to stand alone. But you have shown me that real strength comes from choosing to stand together. Emma nodded. Now you're beginning to understand what makes humans human. As the station's artificial sun began to rise, Zara realized that everything she had believed about power and strength and survival had been wrong. The humans weren't weak because they cared for each other. They were stronger than any species she had ever known, because they had learned that connection was the greatest force in the universe. 2 days after the attack, the Galactic Council met again in the repaired conference room. Many delegates wore bandages or moved carefully due to their injuries. The windows had been replaced, but everyone could see the scorch marks on the station's outer hull where the Krillian pirates had struck. Princess Zara entered the room wearing a simple white dress instead of her royal robes. She had spent the past 2 days helping with repairs and caring for the injured. Her hands showed small cuts from handling debris, and her scales had lost their perfect shine, but her golden eyes were brighter than they had ever been. Ambassador Vex from the Zentoran delegation stood slowly when he saw her. His breathing was still weak, but he managed a formal bow. Princess Zara, he said in his whispering voice, I owe you my life. You and Ambassador Martinez saved me when others would have left me to die. We did what anyone should do, Zara replied. We helped someone who needed help. Commander Vex from the Krillian delegation shifted uncomfortably in his seat. The pirate attack had embarrassed his government, and he was eager to change the subject. Princess, he said loudly, I trust this unfortunate incident has not interfered with your education about human customs. Several delegates chuckled. They expected Zara to return to her previous behavior now that the excitement was over. The attack had been a temporary crisis, but surely she would remember her place as a proper Vethian princess. Zara looked around the room at all the faces watching her. Some were curious, some were mocking, some were kind. She thought about everything she had learned over the past week. Actually, she said, standing up so her voice would carry clearly, I have learned more than I ever expected to learn. Captain Foster, who was attending the meeting despite his injuries, leaned forward with interest. Jake and Emma exchanged glances from their seats at the human delegation table. I was ridiculed for my celibacy, Zara continued. I was told that I was incomplete, broken, missing some essential part of what it means to be a living being. Commander Vex nodded with satisfaction. And now you understand what you were missing? Yes, Zara said, but not in the way you think. She began to walk slowly around the room as she spoke. I have discovered that true intimacy has nothing to do with physical conquest. It is about emotional vulnerability. It is about mutual respect and unconditional care. Lady Korath from the Zentoran delegation made a dismissive sound. Emotional vulnerability is weakness, Princess. Surely you have not forgotten the lessons of your childhood. I have not forgotten them, Zara said. I have simply learned that they were wrong. The room grew very quiet. Delegates leaned forward to hear better. Humans have shown me something that my species has never understood, Zara continued. They have shown me that the greatest strength lies in choosing to be gentle. They have shown me that real power comes from connection, not conquest. Ambassador Thek from the Barathi delegation stood up, his massive form towering over everyone else. You speak of gentleness and connection, but when the pirates attacked, it was human weapons that drove them away. No, Zara said firmly. Human weapons helped, but that is not what saved us. What saved us was the humans' refusal to abandon each other, their willingness to risk their lives for strangers, their ability to work together instead of competing for dominance. She stopped walking and faced the room directly. During the attack, I watched Ambassador Martinez risk his life to save Ambassador Vex, even though their species have been enemies. I watched Captain Foster give orders to protect others while he was dying. I watched crew members share their oxygen with delegates from worlds that have never shown them kindness. Captain Foster spoke up from his wheelchair. We did what was necessary to protect everyone on this station. Yes, Zara said with a smile. You did what was necessary. But necessary for you includes protecting your enemies. Necessary for you includes sacrificing yourselves for others. Necessary for you includes treating strangers like family. She turned back to the assembled delegates. My species teaches that survival requires being stronger than your enemies. But humans have learned something better. They have learned that survival requires making your enemies into friends. Commander Vex stood up angrily. Enough of this nonsense. Princess, you are embarrassing yourself and your people with this soft thinking. Return to Vethia immediately and choose a proper mate before it is too late. No, Zara said quietly. The word fell into the room like a stone into still water. Ripples of shock spread from delegate to delegate. No? Commander Vex's voice rose to a roar. You dare refuse a direct order? I am not refusing an order, Zara said calmly. I am making a choice. I choose connection over conquest. I choose tenderness over dominance. I choose love over power. The Vethian delegation, which had been silent until now, erupted in angry voices. General Krath, the leader of their military, stood up with his hand on his weapon. Princess Zara, you will return to Vethia and fulfill your duties to your people. You will choose a mate and produce offspring as nature demands. I will serve my people, Zara said. But I will serve them in a new way. She turned to Jake Martinez. Ambassador, I request permission to remain on New Horizon as a cultural liaison between my species and yours. Jake stood up with a formal expression, but his eyes were warm. Princess Zara, we would be honored to have you serve in that capacity. The Vethian delegation exploded in protests. General Krath shouted about duty and honor and tradition. Other delegates argued about diplomatic protocols and political consequences. Through all the noise, Emma walked over to stand beside Zara. Then Jake joined them. Captain Foster wheeled his chair over to their group. One by one, other human delegates stood up to show their support. Finally, Ambassador Vex from the Zentoran delegation rose slowly to his feet. I support Princess Zara's decision, he said in his whispering voice. She saved my life by learning human compassion. Perhaps it is time for all of us to learn from their example. More delegates began to stand. Not all of them, but enough to make it clear that Zara was not alone in her choice. General Krath pointed a clawed finger at her. If you do this, you will be exiled from Vethia forever. You will never see your home again. Zara looked around the room at all the faces watching her. Some were angry, some were confused, but many were hopeful. She thought about Tom and Linda reading together in the garden. She thought about Beth and Alex promising to love each other forever. She thought about Captain Foster risking his life for strangers. I understand, she said to General Krath, but I have found a new home here. I have found my purpose. Which is what, exactly? Commander Vex demanded. Zara smiled. To build bridges between conquest and connection. To show that there is a better way to live than constantly fighting for dominance. To teach my people about love. The meeting ended in chaos as different delegations argued about the political implications of Zara's decision. But she remained calm in the center of the storm, surrounded by her new human friends. Later that evening, she sat in her quarters writing a message to her homeworld. The words came slowly because she was trying to explain concepts that had no equivalent in the Vethian language. My beloved people, she wrote, I have discovered something wonderful and terrible. Wonderful because it brings joy beyond anything we have ever known. Terrible because it means we have been living our entire civilization in poverty of the heart. She paused, thinking about how to explain love to a species that had never experienced it. There is a way of connecting to other beings that goes deeper than mating or alliance. It is called love, and it makes you want to care for another person's happiness more than your own. It makes you willing to be vulnerable, to trust, to put another's needs before your own survival. She wrote about the wedding she had witnessed, about the humans sharing their oxygen during the attack, about the simple kindness she saw every day on the station. This is not weakness, she continued. This is strength beyond anything we have ever imagined. When beings choose to love each other, they become more than the sum of their parts. They become family. She ended the message with a promise. I will study this phenomenon called love, and I will find a way to bring this knowledge home to you. Not through conquest, but through connection. Not through force, but through choice. As she sent the message into space, Zara looked out her window at the stars. Somewhere out there was Vethia, the world of her birth. But here, on this human station, was the world of her heart. She thought about Jake's words from days ago, when their happiness becomes more important than your own. For the first time in her life, she understood what that meant. The happiness of her people, the joy of connection, the hope of teaching others about love. These things had become more important than her own comfort or status. A soft knock came at her door. When she opened it, she found Emma holding 2 cups of tea. "I thought you might want some company," Emma said. "Yes," Zara said with a smile. "I would like that very much." As they sat together, sharing tea and quiet conversation, Zara realized that she had finally found what she had been missing her entire life. Not physical pleasure or romantic partnership, but something much deeper. She had found the joy of choosing to connect her heart to others, of being part of something larger than herself. She had found love, in all its many forms.